Ted Cruz is the chair of the Senate Subcommittee on Space, Science, and Competitiveness, which is one of the most random subcommittee names I've ever heard in my life. But also, can we stop and reflect on the fact that Ted fucking Cruz is the head of a science committee? What's this world coming to? So he scheduled a hearing for December 8th where he wants to have experts talk about the issue of climate change. So who did he invite to speak? A man named Mark Steyn. Now, I don't think I've heard this name before until today, but according to Media Matters, Mark Steyn is famous from being, quote, a frequent Rush Limbaugh Show guest host. So Ted Cruz is leading a science committee, vomit, and he's inviting right-wing talk radio fill-in hosts to testify on science matters. Double vomit, quadruple vomit, contemplating suicide vomit. That's unbelievable! That's unbelievable. So, naturally, you could be thinking right now, yeah, whatever, okay, so he does that, but, maybe he has a science background. Is this guy a scientist? Nope. Does he have any expertise in this field? No. So why did Ted Cruz pick him to come and talk to this congressional committee on climate change? Because he's a hack and he's an ideologue. So Media Matters reports on this guy, quote, Steyn has a long history of making extreme and scientifically illiterate claims that could give Cruz a run for his money. For instance, Steyn alleged in 2009 that there has been no global warming this century. In 2010, he declared that environmentalism is fundamentally anti-human, of course, and most recently, Steyn was seen proclaiming that Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders' remarks describing the link between climate change and terrorism were insane, and even imagining terrorists, quote, sawing Bernie Sanders' head off. This is the government of the United States of America. A science committee, a subcommittee on science. This is Congress. They're like, bring in the fill-in talk radio hosts. Bring in the Rush Limbaugh guy. Bring in the guy who's a conspiracy theorist who makes shit up about how the fossil fuel industry is right about everything and the scientists are the greedy ones who want all the money. Bring in that guy to talk about science. My question to you guys is, how the fuck are we gonna get to a point where we're really addressing these issues in a substantive way when we're at the bottom of the bottom here? We can't get any lower than we are right now. Ted Cruz is the head of a science committee. And he's inviting in some guy who's a fucking jackass right-wing talker who knows nothing about science to be an expert on science. God, I can't take it, man. I can't take it. We got to get the money out of the political system so that we don't have the corporate puppets in these positions of power. Because that's what's happening here. I mean, the Republicans take ungodly amounts of money from the fossil fuel industry. So what are they going to do? They're going to push their agenda. And their agenda is no green technology, no climate change legislation, because we have to squeeze out every last dime from our product. So give us subsidies, suppress all that other stuff, and oh yeah, in order to do this, you have to pretend like climate change isn't real. So our Congress is totally corrupt. They're bought. They're bribed. They're doing the bidding of corporations, and in this case, the fossil fuel industry. And that's how we've gotten to this point, where Ted Cruz is the head of a science committee. The head of a science committee, he knows nothing about science. Guys, have you ever stopped and thought about it? Why is it that Democratic leaders are always wimpy? And why is it that Republican leaders are always fucking like caged up lions just waiting to lash out? Look at like John Boehner was Speaker of the House. Brazen, obnoxious, alcoholic. No, I'm right. I'm going to tell you why I'm right. That's John Boehner. And who was the head of the Democrats? Harry Reid. Excuse me, I would like to disagree with you on this one little part maybe, but I'm willing to compromise and negotiate, and here you can have what you want in legislation. Why is that? Have you stopped to think about that? The Democratic leaders are always weak. And the Republican leaders are like, well, we will crush you, repeal Obamacare 60 times. Yeah! Hulkamania, yeah. That's because they're paid to be like that. So the big moneyed interests want the weak Democrats to rise to the top. The big moneyed interests want the strong Republicans to rise to the top. Why? Because their agenda lines up more with the Republicans. Because they're rich, they want to stay rich, they want low taxes, they want subsidies, they want to rig the government in their favor. So you fund the strong Republicans to run roughshod over the weak Democrats, and we're left at this place right here. We have to change it. We have to get the money out of the political system. We have to have politicians that represent the people, and we have to get what we need and what we want, which is a government that takes serious problems like climate change to heart, and they do something about it. You got to get on board with Move to Amend, or you got to get on board with Wolfpack, and we got to try to get this amendment, because unless and until we do, we're going to have an endless line of Ted Cruzes to lead science committees.